working. Yeah. What's going on, man? What's going on? I'm here live on YouTube, not on Facebook, on your YouTube. I'm taking my walk on this most magnificent, beautiful day. It is wonderful. I'm heading up to the store because I got to do some wash. I got to take care of some stuff. Man, what a day, man. It's just beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. What a beautiful day. This is across the street from where I'm at. And look how beautiful. Beautiful. This is a huge church area. So I'm just going to walk down. Yes. Peace, my boy. Hey, what's going on? Benita. Sudden, what's going on? Yeah, I'm taking my daily walk at the same time getting my thoughts in correctly, clearing out the air, getting that good prana, or that secum, like we say in Now Valley. Science, we say secum. Bond dog, what's going on, my brother? Aha, bien dia, bonito, bien dia. Well, I just wanted to come up here real quickly. What's this? Oh, geez, somebody said. Just to let everybody know, it's a wonderful day. Beautiful day. Little overcast, not a lot of sun, but man, just the air here is just beautiful. It's just unbelievable. Yes, peace to you, Bondo. Peace to you, my brother. Peace to you. Peace to everybody that's on here right now. So I'm just again walking and just getting my head clear, get things done. My blood sugars finally have come down, I feel great, man. The energy, great energy, you know what I'm saying? So I'm ready to go to the store and get me some fruits and stuff, make me probably a smoothie, you know what I'm saying? And that's about it. I probably have some fish today. I don't know. It's like fish on Fridays. But I might just do some fish today. I don't know. That's the only kind of meat that I'm eating right now. I don't do no red meat. Very rarely I do turkey, like turkey meat, turkey sauce, something like that. I'm not totally vegan. So but I'm plant-based though. I do a lot of plant-based. Salmon. That's nice, man. Maybe I should get some salmon. That's a great idea. We can make a salmon Thursday, right? That's a great idea. Maybe I should do that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, today is gonna be Spiritual Thursday, and so I'm gonna probably do online later on some meditation, do some chant and do some meditation, and speak about sacred science, what they call the occult. The occult science, when you look at the word occult, you see that that's a spell. Get it, the spelling, that's a spell. They give you a word, bang. If you do not define the word, you can't break the spell. You can't break the spell. You can't decipher the spell because you can't define it. Because all you have is the word occult. That's the spell on you. Bam! That's the spelling of the occult. Nice. That's the spelling of the occult. Bang! You know what I'm saying? But when you define it, how you break that spell, you defined it. So when you define occult and you look at the etymology and you defined it, it's beyond, we'll look at the actual definitions from the dictionary. But I can tell you from etymology, and I can tell you from my standing to reason, that when you look at the word occult, you're looking, because you have the two consonants in there, right? The CC, OCC, right? Called CULT, right? So you got the two CC. When you break that up, you got a prefix and you got another word, which is cult, that comes from culture. Cult, culture, or cult. The prefix to cultivating. See that? All right, Benita. So you have the occult. So when you break up the two C's and you have another prefix, which is OC, which is a prefix to occupation. When you spell the word occupation, 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 right? The first prefix oc, so the occupation of cultivating. You see that? That's what the cult scientists do. That's their occupation. That they occupies their occupation in what? In cultivating nature. And when you look at nature, is a condition, right? Nature is a condition. So you have. I'm just giving you a prerequisite. I'm giving you the way I think and the way I break things down. Because that's, again, breaking the spell. Using science, linguistic science and etymology, phonology, morphology. All of this in linguistics. When you study linguistics, you study this. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Etymology of it. So you're studying how to break spells. You have to spell it. You have to look at the definitions. You got to be aware also how it's used around you. You know what I'm saying? Like some people use a cult in a very derogatory way. A cult. Oh, those are the occult, very right? Ancient Kemet occult, that's black magic, that's witchcraft. But they don't define it. You see, they're casting spells. You get it? They cast spells on you. Some people can't help it because they learned this in their jargons from their past. They learn it from people, on the pulpit. They learn it from people from that just constantly give them narrative. You know what I'm saying? But they never define it. They never break it down, so they cannot break the spell, the spelling of it. You have to break it. So that's why I always say you have to define, right, the occult, right, Benita? Again, people have misinformation, and the misinformation and all of that's missing. The omitted data is the actual definition. So, you have people that just cast spells because this is the way they were taught to do it. It's a constant thing around us. Those tonalities, those words at us. But when we break the spell by defining it, that's how we break the spell. You know what I'm saying? So again, occult, the occupation of cultivating nature, the first prefix of cultivating and cher from nature. So when you cultivate nature, so the occupation of the occupation of cultivating conditions around you. That's the occult science. That's what our ancient Kemetic or now Valley, Happy Valley, Ma Confederation civilization did. They were cultivators. They cultivated the conditions of the Happy River, right? And they passed these agricultural practices through word from mouth to ear and on and on and on. And then they develop, to pass fables, oral traditions on to generations on and on and on. So they could become farmers also, or become blacksmith, what they call ironsmith, and so on, even percussionists or storytellers to become priests, storytellers and all of this. So that nature, to cultivate that, the occupation of doing that, that's where you get the occult from, An occult, I'll look up the definition. I think it's an English word, it's an English concoction, occupation, you know what I'm saying? All leads back into Latin or Greek. We'll impact that, you know what I'm saying? When we define that, and the origin of a lot of these practices come from the Nile Valley, because that's the first civilization. Those are our ancestors. They had time to do this, to practice this, and wrote and passed it on through oral traditions, passed it on into these mystical schools, mystery, my story, you know what I'm saying? They passed it on and kept it in these institutions because they taught this. They built institutions. In Heliopolis, this is Anu and Thebes and Memphis and all of these, Khemenu and all of these institutions, the Institute of Hadar, they passed the science of fertility. They had to pass the science of fertility, you know what I'm saying, of how to look into the stars and see when is a proper time to create certain characters and personalities that they wanted to create in their civilization. It's a whole practice, a practice. People ain't got nothing better else to do, I guess. No, I mean, if you're living in that time, you gotta put yourself at that time. Become an actor. Put yourself in that location. Put yourself in that time and say, man, I got the opportunity to observe nature at another level all around me. And if you're an observant person and you document it and you put it down on stones, you put it down on papyri, you know what I'm saying, and pass it on through traditions, you know what I'm saying. They got a cave right now with the Dogons, and they have all these glyphs, and there's a one person that takes care of that, and he's there he transitions, and the next person comes on. They pick the shaman, and they're honored to sit there and guard those temples because they got glyphs, and they're able to decipher the glyphs. You know what I'm saying? And pass on those stories, fable story. You know what I'm saying? Ma Ingala. Ma Ingala. That's another thing I'm going to break down. Like you say, Ma. That's where we get Mama from. Ma. That's the waters. We understood that we came from the waters of the womb. Yeah, Ma. We came from the waters of Lake Victoria. From the now Happy Valley. Those waters that we came from. And our companions were certain mammal fishes, like the dolphins, that taught the sun how to speak with clicks. You know, you could trace it. All of this back. Mama. Yeah, Mommy Watts. Yeah, Ma. And you look at a lot of languages throughout humanity use that Ma, because that was the first federation, the Ma, what they call the Fish Federation. They're coming out of the waters, you know what I'm saying, the Ma civilization, and they're finding out that's one of the oldest civilization that predates ancient Kemet. Matter of fact, that's the foundation of Kemet, because that became Ma'at. See, Ma'at, the balance, because water finds its balance, and they use water to balance things. You know what I'm saying? You got the Nubo, perfectly balanced water. They use water liquid now to even use it for balancement. You know, when you look at the balance beam, when I use that a lot in construction, that little piece in there that's in green, you balance the water. So they understood this concept. That's Ma'at. Ma'at. See, Ma'at. That's Ma. The Ma Federation, one of the oldest civilization that stand all through the Nile Valley, into the Congo Basin, into the Green Sahara. When the Sahara was a flourishing greenery garden, the Sahara. Before it was a desert, it was a green. You know, they're finding fish deposits there, they're finding bones, they're finding caves and writing, and these are our ancestors, in the cradle of civilization, what we know today as Africa. You know what I'm saying? And we used to say Ma, and that's the Ma Federation. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, Maya, yeah, Maya, yeah, Moya, yeah, Maya, yeah, Ma, see, yeah, Maya, Ma. It's always there. You can always trace it back phonetically. Ma'at, balancement, water finds balancement. Yemaya, which is Maya. Moya is water. Maya, water is water. Ma is water. You know what I'm saying? So you got like yo Maya. Maya. That's is an exclamation. It's calling out. Maya. Moya. You know, it's all related. And this goes into the Hindus, and this goes into Sumuria, Magari, the Mari, Ma. But when you look at the phonetics and you trace to that phonetic sound, Ma, you get to see the power that it has. say Maingala, 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 Maingala. Anybody seen the sound of it yesterday? That brother, oh man, that's Suki Akela. He knows. He knows. You know, I was just saying, see, I'm not the only one that be spitting this. I'm not the only one. There's many of us that we know. We know because it's oral traditions and also it's reasoning, oral traditions, and it's getting to the core of things. You know what I'm saying? And so we come up with Ma'a, that civilization, the Oranian culture, which predates, goes all the way back to the Caspian Seas. It's all, I'm telling you, on that continent. And so it's Ma'ingala. You know, that word Ma'ande, Mande, right? Like the Mandinga, Ma'ande is Ma'inde, Mind. You know what I'm saying? That's the Ma'ande people. You know, that became that language of the Mali Empire. The Mandinko. Ma-dinko. You see that? Ma. This is a civilization. Ma. That goes way back. And when they settled into the, came into the Delta, became Ma'at. You know what I'm saying? Balancement. And then it went into Sumuria, became Ma'agari. You know, and they went into the Hindus. I forgot the name they used, Gurugu, something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about that Ma. And if you look at humanity, what do we call our Ma? Ma. That's the waters. But we, you know, that's imprinted in us genetically. That's ancestry pattern, a genetic blueprint. So when you get your DNA explosion, all of it starts hitting. It starts hitting you, you know, and you get to see the you know, you start seeing the connections in sound and frequency and the tone ma. Or bilingual, shafatwe, bilingual, shafatwe, right? And then the throat to halak, shafatwe, wu halak, sawut. You know what I'm saying? And that's speaking in Sabiic. So it's good to learn other languages, Spanish, and I like to learn an African language, the Sabiic language, and the Mande language. So, you know, and it's not that we call out for Ma Ingala. We call out for Ma, naturally. Ma. That's having reverence. That's knowing. You know what I'm saying? So we call out to Ma Ingala. Ma. We just recognizing the ancestral pattern. That's not worship. You know what I'm saying? If you want to call it that, you can call it if you want to. That's how you think. But it's not worshiping at all. It's acknowledging Ma Ingala. You know what I'm saying? So what else can I say about that? Mande. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the languages that also, when it spread out, became your Sabiic, Saba language in that part of Sudan, and then went into Yemen, went into Iran, went into Iraq, Iran, Yemen, and the southern Arabia, and became the Ma'indin. You get it? Ma'indin. And then the Sabaean. You know what I'm saying? Which is Saba, also number 7, the 7 kingdoms that came out of the Ma'a Confederation. The Saba kingdom came out of the Ma'a Confederation. You know what I'm saying? And there were 7 lineages that came out. And you got queens, you got queendoms and kingdoms that trace their lineages back through oral traditions. These are kingdoms. You had the Queen of England bow down to emperors in Africa because she understood that this ancestry predates her way back. There's records, oral traditions, there's records orally that are passed down and kept in certain glyphs, what they call sacred glyphs. Hieroglyphs are sacred glyphs and writings. Yeah. And then all of this is encoded into you. Because I was listening to Phil Valentine. Brother, hold on. Sorry, I'm back about that. Somebody tried to call me. What I was saying. Yeah, I forgot my thought. Look at that. Hey, all right, fine. But anyway, so I just wanted to come on here and just let you all know that yeah, I'm going. I'm gonna speak about spiritual. When you talk about spirit, spiritus, and breath. Oh, but I'm talking about the Phil Valentine thing. Is that Phil Valentine said something very, very that I always thought about because I knew how the glyphs or the languages of being glyphs and those languages that came out of the star, what they call solar civilizations from the Mount Federation. And when they look up stars and they started to chart the stars, like when you look at Nasta Playa and those observatory throughout all of that land, they had observatories set up so they could look at the stars, right? That's how they built the pyramids, right? So they look at the star as a chart. And as the chart, when they start making those connections, stars, glyphs start appearing. So their languages was based on that glyphs. And also, so that's very interesting because Phil Valentine said that's reading another language when you look up to the stars and you look at the formation. He says that was the glyphs of the stars, the glyphs of the constellations. And navigators knew this, so they knew how to read the stars in order to navigate through the waters, in order to navigate through through the Moya. You see, the stars, and there's glyphs. Those are glyphs if you know how to decipher it. So again, our connection to the stars, saying Saba and Orion, the Sirius and Orion, and then looking at those formations. And so this was an ancient practice for our ancestors. They were well connected to that. Again, I call that the transcendental mind. Beyond the mind is a reservoir. So we have a reservoir of ideas and thoughts. That's our mental mind, right? And then we have what we call our solar plexus, which is our solar abdominal brain, our mind. That's a reservoir of feelings and emotions. Well, then guess what? You have a transcendental mind that goes beyond your ideas and concepts. When you look and you see a reservoir of stars. That's in the reservoir of all these stars. It's a different mind. So our ancestors were able to connect all these minds. Underneath the mind of feelings and emotions, you got the mind of the dead gases, what they call those dead gases that can pull you into the mental death. The mental death mentality. It's 6 ether, 3 ether. It goes down, down, down. Right? You know what I'm saying? But that's another mind. That's another reservoir of dead gases. And that combined with your feelings, combined with your ideas and thought, and combined with your transcendental mind, all that, it's a completeness of how humanity and the power that we have. And the powers that we have, you know what I'm saying? I gotta constantly keep telling myself this. I'm just like everybody else here, I gotta keep constantly telling myself this and grow and expand, right? Pop out, right? And I say these words because those are tones and tonality that are now valley tonalities. You can't just say Ningala and I'm about Black African power and African spirituality, and you don't connect back to linguistically to a language, a lahaj. You have to connect back to a lahaj. You have to in the continent because you have to learn those tones. And a lot of times, if you know your genetics and you know your stories, your ancestral patterns and genetic blueprint, you connect with the language of that particular, genetics, and it activates your tones, it activates your minds. You start getting DNA explosion when you start learning some of these tones. Back in the day, we activated the part of it through the Arabic language, but it was a different Arabic language. You had many different dialects. So out of this Ma Federation came many other languages, because of those glyphs. And it became other languages when they migrated and mixed in with certain indigenous people in those areas, and they migrated, you know what I'm saying, the language changed. And even haplogroup changed. That's what my discussion was about the other day, about the haplogroup changing. Because of mutation. You know, they were taking in other foods, living under different environments, you know, being influenced by other characters and personality. So that's what I meant to say about spirit. When you say African spirituality, you're talking about spirit, spirituality, right? Spirit, the breath of something is the character and personality of something. When you give it breath, you give it life. And life, on the top half, life, right, is characters and personality. That's the next wave into, you know, into your higher self. It's studying your character and your personality. So to strengthen your spirituality, which is deals a lot with economics in the Black Law Dictionary, deals a lot with your ecology of you, and it deals a lot with your origin, right? So when you connect back, so what was I saying? Oh my God, interesting. So listen, I don't want to go in too much deep in right here, right now. But I'm going to save it for the podcast, you know what I'm saying, do everything right. I'm going to pretty soon start recording and then editing, recording, editing, and give you a better content like that. I'm going to start doing that tomorrow, next week. I'll start that next week, but right now I'll just be going raw live. But you got to excuse me because I be making a lot of mistakes, man. I keep things up there that should be up there. Because I gotta navigate through this. I don't have nobody sitting there helping me navigating through the app. You know what I'm saying? So, listen. Thank you very much, everybody that was on here, and I hope that it was in a way. We need your knowledge. We need all each other. We need each other, man. I've learned. Let me tell you something, man. That conversation they were having yesterday, son, that was deep with the brother. Of course, there's other brother that comes in and you know how it is. You know what it is, what it is. But that was deep. And my brother reached out to me, Tahuti Brown, man. One shout out to him, Tahuti. Tahuti is gonna have a conversation. That's another deep brother. There's a lot of brothers out here that has, or that at least is sharing some knowledge, and that's what it's all about. We all have that in us. It's just like if you be around more people like if you resonate with this and you resonate, then we both learn and we both expand ourselves. Yeah, the African brother Sekou Kele, man, yo, when he says Maingala, I was like, yo, what? I was like, yo, I'm gonna come and say, they ain't ready for that. Well, you know, so when you talk about African spirituality, you're talking about character, personality. How are you going to strengthen your character and personality? And I'm going to do a podcast about that. You know, reading, music. There's certain things that strengthens your character. When you look at a person and says, man, that person's got a lot of character. I mean, that person got a lot of spirit or personality. A person got a lot of spirit in them. There's ways to strengthen that. There's ways, and that's what's needed here. You know what I'm saying? That's what's needed, you know? But yeah, what he said, Maingala. Let me just keep you on for 1 second while I cross the street and go to this parking lot and go to the store. When he started saying Maingala, I was like, they ain't ready for that. They're not ready for that. And the Israelites can't connect. You know, the Israelite, through that language, the Aramaic, they can't connect back if you do it linguistically. They could connect, but they're missing those pieces. They don't allow it because they're still stuck on the Europeans' interpretation of our story. See? They're stuck on that European interpretation of our story because the European took it, hijacked it, rebranded, reformed it to create their economic base. All of this is economic base, man. Once we get into the language and we start speaking the same African language, you know what I'm saying, and we start a character, personality, and a DNA, it's, you know, an ancestral patterns are strong, the genetic blueprints are strong, create an economic base. An economic base. You know, you go to a Chinatown, and their economics. You see Chinatown everywhere. They're speaking Chinese. They have their deities. They have their own money too. They even have, they have their language. They have their foods, everything. You go to different cultures here. They have that. My Hispanic brothers, you go to also to Hispanic areas. They got a lot of, but that's all really African culture. But it's been Spaniardized. You know what I'm saying? They have a problem too. It's been Spaniardized. It's been another Europeanized. Because again, that's that economics. That is that economics. But when they start breaking the mold and you start realizing that, man, we have the power to create our own economic base. We have our own powers to break. We have our own powers to create an economic base. And part of that, if you want to create your community, is spirituality, which is character personalities. The Chinese got their own character and personalities. They're a whole one race. They, a whole one being with a certain character and personality. You know what I'm saying? So when we establish that within ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And understand that it runs out. African diaspora, it includes North America, Canada, North America, Caribbean, Central America, and Latin America. You could find our spirit, our character, personality, our African, in all those continents, you find it. Even amongst Native Americans, the mixture, the amalgamation, and not only because Native American had slaves, no, not because of that, because prior to them having slaves, some did have slaves, right? Prior to that, they knew that their ancestry was the combination, because you look at their glyphs and the wording, the linguistics, even foods they eat. Look at their glyphs and the food. You see a Mande similarity there. They have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that. And that's why, hey, it is what it is. You just gotta acknowledge, that the cradle of civilization, the cradle of humanity, comes from that continent that today is called Africa. Of course, they call it today. But remember, that landmass, that landmass is bigger than what they show in the map. That's definitely. It's much, much bigger. And it connects up. Even the tip of Africa is closer to the Greenlands. Because you see, they talk about a migration coming from the Bering Straits, but they never tell you about the migration coming from the tip of the island, from the Pacific Islands, who were Africans that went to the Pacific Islands. They sailed to the Pacific Islands and they crossed over into the tip of Africa, into what they call Greenland. Is it Greenland? On Antarctica. But you see, they couldn't stay in Antarctica because they couldn't survive, humanity, humans, Antarctica. But there was section in Antarctica that were green, and they're finding artifacts in Antarctica. They're finding artifacts like, whoa! And you see that they travel from the tip, from those islands, Pacific Islands, from those tips, and they travel into South America, the tip of South America. That was another migration. Another migration. You know what I'm saying? Reggie touched upon that a little bit, but he didn't want to go deep into that. But what I was going to tell him, the people in the Pacific Island, like for instance, Rock, Momoa, and Hawaii, those people got African features also, right? And those people, when they trace their ancestry, the different haplogroup, because again, remember, you can't go by haplogroup because they mutates. and it changed and become its own haplogroup. But when you trace the migration, the food, and you trace the migration, and you trace the oceanography, the way the plates shift and the way the lands are situated, when you trace all of that, you say there's a possibility. You see that a lot of the ancestry of the people from the Pacific Island in general trace it back to Africa. Trace it back to that continent, because when that continent was together with the other continent known as what? Pangaea, then it became Ganawa, then it became Rodinia. Those are three different continent masses, and they start splitting up. And when they started to move, that particular continent that's known as Africa today does not move. It's stuck to the crust of the earth. It doesn't move. Everything moves away from it. That's the reason why you got hurricanes and storms coming away from Africa into the other continents, into the oceans, into the continent. Because that's that geomagnetic powers, the geomagnetic frequencies, right? So that island, that landmass known as Africa today is the cradle. It's where everything shifts out of. Even your continent shift away from it. Migration away from that continent. And as they move away, they mutated into different haplogroups because they were eating different foods. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing they didn't want to go into. That's they don't want to look at that, because again, remember, you got to put the pieces together. You got to look into geographic oceanography. You got to look into the linguistics. You got to look into agriculture. You got to look into botany, right? You got to look into that, because they find, because organisms, we're fibers, we're organisms, fungi. Before we became bodies, again, this primordial being, before it manifests into this organism body, that's viruses and bacteria, fungi. Remember, the species that were on Ganawa was mutating and traveling. So it travels through all these other continents. So when it shifts, some of those species, you can find similarities in animals and species that you find in South America and botany and some plants and soil. You find it the same as if you go to Africa, because it was connected. The only thing that was separating it was a river, a huge river coming down the middle. This is oceanography, yo. This is the study of oceanography. You just got to study, and I'm gonna bring up some good books. You can read up on that. Subscribe to Scribe, and on there, they got nice books. I can refer you to some nice books. But a lot of times, people ain't gonna sit down and read it. But at least we could, with these classes, I'll take sections, and we'll take sections and we'll discuss it. So at least the references. When you have a conversation, oh, that's pseudo. How do you mean pseudo? There's papers on this. There's sciences in this. It's just that you don't prescribe yourself to that science. Why don't you say that? I know nothing about oceanography. That's fine. You know nothing about oceanography, but let me share something with you on a layman turn. Let me share something to you simple about oceanography that you can reason out. Because a lot of this knowledge, again, like Phil Valentine even mentioned about the Akashic records, that's your genetic records. Your DNA, when they unpack those strands, they have codes in them, information. That's the reason why they're able to do a DNA test and take the sequence. That's information, genetic blueprints, ancestral patterns, information that's locked in within those genetics. Information with forensic science, they go in there and they pull out that information from the soil. And so they document that. But a lot of this is in us. And we, and our ancient science, through what I'm going to segue to today, Thursday, about spirituality, and little by little, we're going to tap onto this. We're going to tap onto this, and hope, and I know it's going to make a change around us. It's going to make a change. You're going to see, like, wow, I'm thinking more clearer now. I'm thinking more order. More, I'm sensing more. So I'm scientific. I'm sensing more. Sensia. I am, man. You become lit up. And I think, one of the process, and I'm not saying for anybody, but I think what happened was when I was in the hospital for 5 months, and they took all know that because a lot of times, your DNA and your cells can be impacted by mucus in the cell, and Dr. Sebi spoke about that. So you have to detox your body, and you got to get rid of that and let those cells open up and let the DNA explosion happen. A lot of times, food dumb us down. I mean, we can connect it all. So anyway, let me get to the store right here. Thank you, everyone. Going to go further into these discussions. So today I'm going to do a spiritual thing. Do a little chanting, do a little meditation right there online, the best way I can, and then we're going to have more and more of this conversation. Okay, peace and blessings to you. Now, if I can find out how to end this, here you go.